Well, good morning. I should say that three times, right? Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's say it 30 times. Here we are, day 16, part 16, moment 16, where we are talking. And today, I want to talk about something that gets described in very abstract terms in most spaces when it comes to transformation and personal growth. And that's the subject of healing. Now, healing is important and healing is something that is necessary, but sometimes healing, as you'll see, maybe not today, but as you'll see, can become a mask, can become something we hide behind, etc. And I want to talk about what healing is, what it produces, and what it looks like from the inside when it's real. Because I think healing, like real, genuine healing, not the concept or the aspirational language that we hear, but the experience of it is different from what most of us were taught to expect. And that gap between the expectation and the reality can make people think that they haven't healed when they actually have. So let me try to describe what I know here. Um, so healing, first, let's talk about what it's not. Okay, so healing is not the removal of the wound. All right, I'm going to say that again because I want it to land very clearly. Healing is not the removal of the wound. The thing that happened to you, the season that broke something, the loss that reshaped the inside of you, the damage that came from the invisible contract and the false self architecture and the years of not being who you were actually, who you actually are, that thing happened. Okay. What happened can't be unhappened. The wound is real. You can't undo it. You can't bonk, 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 and go back in time. And even if you could, you've experienced it already. In Groundhog Day, the guy experienced every day, even though he finally got the one he wanted. He had to deal with the wounds of every day. You cannot undo a wound. That's not what healing is. The wound is real. And it does not erase the wound. It restores the function. It brings back aliveness to something that was numb. It allows the scar. But if I need to write myself a note, I have an entire framework on scars called scar theory. And I want to talk more about it. It allows the scar to become scar. I've got scars on my hands where I've cut myself in different ways and on different things, barbed wire fences, a wrench, knives, just because life happens, right? Scar is a scar. The wound that was there still existed, even though it's not a wound anymore. It did exist, but it's stable now, sealed, part of the terrain, rather than an open space that keeps being reopened. And the healed person is not the person who was never hurt. They're the person who was hurt and is no longer organized around the hurt, no longer letting the hurt be the identity. And I think that specific distinction can change everything. Because if you're waiting for healing to mean that the wound is gone, if you're measuring your recovery by the thing that still hurts when you press on it, you're going to wait forever. You're going to wait forever because certain scars, even when they're fully healed, still hurt when they're pressed on. It's not illness, it's just what scar tissue does. Healing is not painlessness, healing is a function, movement, the capacity to be present in your actual life rather than perpetually trying to become and be organized around what happened to you. So just let's describe healing for a minute. What does it look like in the practical daily texture of life. No abstract terms here. I know from my own experience and from watching people do this work, healing looks like thinking about the hard thing without the hard thing taking over the day. It used to occupy the whole room. Now it occupies a corner. See, that's healing. Healing looks like being genuinely present with someone you love without part of you sitting in the season that broke you. Being here, not back there. That's healing. It can look like the wound no longer being the first thing you reference when you describe yourself. The person who went through the divorce, the person who had the breakdown, the person who lost the thing or the someone. And when the wound stops being the primary identity marker, that's healing. Healing looks like the capacity to be in situations that used to trigger the old patterns without automatically triggering them. The trigger fires and you feel it and you don't react. Oh, there it is. That's healing. And healing looks like the ability to tell your story, even the worst part of it, without it destabilizing you, without emotion carrying you back to the chair, to the bed, without losing yourself inside of it. The story can be told from outside it now. That is healing. And this is what healing looks like in my life right now, specifically. I think about March 4th, 2023. The icing, the straw day, the darkest day I've known. And I feel gratitude. I'm glad that day happened. I'm glad I was in that space. Because I wasn't good in that space. And it's not because I would choose it, but because what became possible on the other side of it, I'm grateful for it. See, that is a specific kind of healing. The transformational on top of healing, the transformation of a wound from something that defines you to something that informs you. That is not something you just choose to feel. It arrives when the interior work, the inner space is real and complete enough. I can talk about the most painful seasons of my life in public, in coaching rooms, in this live series without losing my footing, without being pulled back in. The story can be told from the vantage point of the person who is on the other side. That's different from how it was 3 years ago. That's healing. And the most concrete thing that I can offer, every morning I wake up and I know I'm free. Not free from hard things. There are plenty of hard things. Free inside myself. Free from the exhaustion of the performance, the maintenance of the false self, the management of the hidden interior, the concern about other people's opinions, and free for life. That freedom, the simplicity of being the same person inside and outside every single day, of not having to carry one single thing hidden inside of me, being genuinely at home in my own life, is what I call healed. It's not perfect. It's not uncomplicated. Healed. Honesty aligns liberation's language. The whole moment of healing is the moment you realize you've been referring to the wound in the past tense. You've been saying it happened rather than it is happening. You've been talking about what you went through rather than what you're going through. The honesty is that something completed. Something that was open is now sealed, and something that was organizing my entire life no longer is. When that honesty lands, something aligns with a profound and quiet certainty. And the language that forms is not the language of recovery. It's the language of arrival, of being here finally, fully in the life that is actually yours. And I want to say something now about the timing because I think it matters. Healing does not happen on a schedule. You you can't control it. It doesn't happen because you decided to be healed or because you did enough work or enough time passed. Time doesn't heal, okay? It happens as a result of the work, real work, the invisible contracts examined and renegotiated, the false self architecture seen and gently dismantled, the grief completed rather than bypassed, the covert transactions named and released. The story is updated. See, that's the work. Do that work. You have to do that work. You got to really do it, not just intellectually understand it. And then healing follows. It's the result. Not immediately, not in a line, but it follows. And the person you become on the other side of real healing is not a dismantled or lesser diminished version of who you were before the wound. It is, in my experience, a more complete, grounded, genuinely alive version of the person who was wounded. And really, a more genuine and completely alive person than you ever were. So one question today. What in you has healed more than you've given yourself credit for? Not what is still in process. There'll always be something in process. But what has already moved? What wound is now a scar rather than an open place? What is completed that you haven't yet acknowledged as complete? You have permission today. Give yourself permission to see the progress. The work is real. The growth is real. The life is real. Let it be real. Day 16. This is deep work and we're in it. Tomorrow, one of the most expansive conversations in this entire series, what I call the amplified life. The life that becomes available when who you are and how you live stop being in conflict. I can't wait to share this with you. So be well. I'll see you in the morning.